Most people would agree that Bali is a magical place. Beautiful nature meets exhilarating adventures combined with the luxury of modern hotels, villas and dining options. Bali holds a high place on most travellers or sun seekers' bucket lists, but what is the reality of Bali? What are the pros and cons in 2022? My name is Matt and today I'm going to discuss with you the pros and cons of Bali as a travel destination for anyone for coming for just a short trip to those considering making Bali your future home. And make sure you stick around to the end of the video, guys, because I'm going to share with you my biggest shock that I had when moving to Bali. Okay, let's jump into it. Let's start with our first pro, cost of living and affordability. Bali boasts one of the best costs of living in the whole of Southeast Asia. Food can often be one of the biggest bills for expats and holiday goers, but here in Bali you can eat for as little as $1.50 if you are willing to eat in some local warungs, which is like a small local restaurant. Indonesian cuisine is diverse and delicious, so don't be afraid to experiment with your food when you're here. The other biggest bill for travellers is accommodation. You can get cheap guest houses which are always clean, often have a pool, and will have regular cleaning services for as little as $250 a month. However, and this is a big however, not all areas in Bali are the same. There are some more expensive areas such as Canggu where you can spend very Western prices on accommodation, but even here in Canggu, where I live, there are some very affordable options too. Guest houses can cost from around $300 or $400 a month, and there are still local rooms with cheap food options. But if you want to splash out a little bit, you can rent for as much as $1,000 a night and eat in some world-class restaurants for up to $50 a meal. But in general, and looking at Bali as a whole, it's a very affordable place and very budget friendly for the backpacker folk. Okay, the first con, traffic. Bali is home to over 4 million residents. Combine this with the 6 million tourists that travel here each year, and you're going to get something that looks a little bit like this. Bali, like most places in Asia, saw a boom in tourism in the 90s and was quick to develop a big tourism industry full of hotels, restaurants, bars, and clubs, but the road infrastructure never really caught up. Little to no planning has led to some bottleneck areas where traffic literally grinds to a halt. Fortunately, this isn't everywhere on the island, but hotspots can be found around Kuta, Seminyak, Canggu, Denpasar, and unfortunately now even Ubud. I've never been anywhere before where the traffic is so bad that even scooters are all stuck. But hey, I guess this is what happens when there's so many cool places to go and so many cool things to do. But if you're clever with it, clever with the way that you drive, avoid hitting the main roads at peak hours, or if you live in a place where the traffic just isn't bad at all, then you might not care about it. Maybe. Okay, second pro, nature and the adventures that come with that. I don't think this will come as a shock to any of you that Bali is one of the most beautiful places in the world. With dense jungle, wild rainforests, beautiful beaches and jaw-dropping landscapes, there's enough here to keep even the keen adventurer busy. My highlights and things that I would strongly recommend doing would be to climb one of the active volcanoes on the island. This might seem like a slightly crazy thing to do, but trust me when I say this will be one of the most amazing experiences of your life. If you're like me and this will be the first time you climb a volcano, then prepare to be absolutely blown away when you summit just in time for sunrise and witness Bali from a unique perspective that not many people are privileged to. If you're feeling extra adventurous, then you can choose to hike Mount Agung in the northeast of Bali like we did, a 16-hour hike to the highest point in Bali at over 3,000 meters. Or if you're wanting something a little bit more bite-sized but almost as cool, then you could choose to hike Mount Batur in the center of Bali. At over 1,700 meters, this is still an incredible view from the top, but you can cover the whole hike in as little as 3 hours. Other awesome things to do to explore the amazing nature here would include checking out the rice paddies. There are the really famous ones in Teg Alalang, but I would suggest to go and explore some of the less known rice fields out in, say, Cinnamon Valley too. Avoid the crowds and see something really spectacular. Bali is also famous for its amazing waterfalls. I'll link a video here with a guide to which waterfalls you should check out, but essentially most of the waterfalls are going to be found around the Ubud and Gianyar areas and around the north and middle of the island. Some of my personal highlights would be Munduk Falls in Buleleng and Alingaling Falls in Sambangan. Defo check these out. Beaches are also a big thing here. Hunt down those white sand beaches down in Uluwatu or do some cool scuba diving at Secret Beach on the east. scuba dive in Amed, or catch some cool waves in Canggu. Bali's nature is probably the biggest pro here. Okay, con number 2. It's busy and there's a lot of tourists. Where there is beauty, there is often tourists. And Bali is no exception to this rule. As I previously mentioned, Bali is host to over 6 million tourists every year. And take my word for it, they get everywhere. You might be expecting to experience the waterfalls or the beautiful viewpoints with just you and some close friends or a loved one, but the reality is that you're going to be sharing this with a whole host of strangers who are all waiting to get that same Instagram shot. That's definitely not to say that there are still not some amazingly quiet places, romantic experiences to have, but it's just to say that you'll have to now work harder, trek further, and search longer to find them. But when you do, it's going to be worth the wait. Okay, pro number 3, the amazing gyms and fitness scene here. Okay, this is quite a big one. Bali is fast becoming a mecca for the fitness folk, with world-class fitness resorts, CrossFit centers, professional MMA gyms, high-class traditional weight gyms, world-class yoga retreats. Bali will have you covered. But the truth is, the fitness scene goes much deeper than all this. Health and fitness is a big part of people's lives here, particularly in the expat scene. Breath work, fasting, healthy eating, and consciousness are all commonplace here. And again, trust me when I say it becomes infectious as the healthy lifestyle grips in. Again, Canggu is the epicenter of all this action. There are other gyms in other areas, but nothing like what's going on in Canggu. Some highlights would include Wanderlust, one of the biggest CrossFit centers in the world, Bali MMA, a prestigious MMA training center with boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, fitness, as well as more traditional gyms like Body Factory. But be warned, gyms here are mega expensive, ranging from anything from $100 to $200 a month, some of them even more. Body Factory is crazy. There are cheaper options, small local gyms, which, let's be honest, will give you everything you need, but maybe not give you everything you want. Okay, my third con. Bali lacks a variety of different things to do. Okay, this one is more for the expats that are considering moving here. Bali has an incredible range of activities and things that you can do when you're here for just a short period of time. But when you live here for over a year, you're going to start to notice that you miss going to a few things, a few pop-up events, theatres, museums, etc. These just don't really exist here. I guess this comes down to that beach town versus city living debate, and these things can only be found really in cities. But I know me personally, I like to live in these kind of beach towns very happily for a while, and then I start craving some city benefits. Luckily for Bali, you're only a short flight away from some really exciting cities like Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, and even Jakarta has got a lot to offer. Okay, I've got a slightly different one. I've got a pro and a con. The weather. I'm putting the weather here in Bali in the pros and the con list. Let's be fair though, compared to most places in the world, the weather here is amazing. With 230 days of sunshine a year, there's not really a great deal to complain about. But there is one big thing, the rain season. Rain season here packs a punch, running for 6 months between the months of October to March, with the heaviest period being in the middle 2 months and the first 2 months and the last 2 months being a kind of transition. The rain season here is savage and it does feel like it goes on forever. The dry season is beautiful with consistently sunny days allowing you to fully explore what this stunning island has to offer. And living in a country with such consistent weather for half the year means that you can become a real outdoors person and really get to one with nature. But if you're planning to come here for just a couple of weeks holiday, be careful when you book. I know people that have come on 2-week holidays and not seen the sunshine. So I'm putting weather in both because it is great, but it does have a downside. Okay, fourth pro, the cheap flight options. For me, this is an amazing pro. Bali is an incredible geographic location, which means that you're only a cheap flight away from some of the best locations in the world. Vietnam, Singapore, the Philippines, and even Australia are all within only a 4 or 5 hour flight, and sometimes can be booked for as little as $100. But even just a bit further than this, you're in a great location to explore places like India, Japan, South Korea, and other places like Sri Lanka and Africa. Bali is such an amazing place to call a home and then take trips and holidays to some of the other world top destinations. Okay, the fourth con. Very few open spaces to walk, things like parks and sidewalks. If you come to Bali, prepare to use your scooter to get everywhere, and I'm talking even to the local shops. There are not many usable pavements or sidewalks to use in the non-tourist areas, and even those that are in places like Canggu don't really lead anywhere. Like some streets have them and then some streets don't. And if you're looking for some nice parks and green areas and open spaces to have a walk around or a skate or a cycle, you're going to have to venture through all the traffic into Denpasar. Of course, there is the beach, but practically you won't find many people who are here just walking around trying to get from A to B. There just isn't the infrastructure here for that. And cycling, if you are brave enough, you can obviously use the roads. Not many people do it. But if you're expecting pavements, then you're going to be bitterly disappointed and just forget about it. Okay, the fifth pro, food. How could we have come so far through this list without talking about the food here? Bali has a very rich food culture. Food is so diverse here that you can eat Indonesian food at street vendors or local warungs and have a different meal every single day of the year and at super cheap prices. Enjoy nasi goreng, a famous rice dish, or satay sticks, which are sticks with various meats cooked on them, cooked over an open flame, or any of the other famous local dishes. Or Bali is also famous now for its amazing selection of worldwide food options. Canggu is the epicenter of this action again. If you can't find something you want to eat in Canggu, you're doing something wrong. Canggu also leads the way in terms of health-conscious foodies, with amazing options for those who follow diets such as gluten-free, vegan, and other diets. The local food is excellent in all of Bali, but if you're looking for that amazing Western grub, Canggu is going to be the place for you. Okay, the fifth and final con, pollution. Bali is known to have issues with waste, especially plastics from landfills washing into the ocean. The problem led the authorities here to declare a trash emergency in 2017. According to experts, Bali's famous beaches like Kuta and Legion beaches are being buried by up to 60 tons of plastic rubbish every day. What's worse is this is actually becoming an annual reality owing to weather patterns like monsoons and inefficient waste structures. This is leading to a worldwide marine pollution crisis. You will often walk down the beach and spot rubbish, but just know this isn't people leaving their trash, it's Mother Nature spitting on us. And Bali is doing things about it. There's often trucks that drive up and down, just dragging the rubbish away. It's also not uncommon to walk around and see that rubbish bins and trash containers are overflowing and seemingly not really being removed. Bali does have a trash problem, but it's not overwhelming and it is getting better. Okay, I'm going to finish with my final pro. I know I've had 6 pros and 5 cons, but it's Bali, there's going to be more pros. And I think this is probably one of the best ones yet. The great people. And I mean both expats and locals. Bali is home to some of the most amazing, warm, friendly locals in the entire world. I thoroughly enjoy living amongst them. Balinese people really do wake up with a smile and go through their day in an air of optimism and just genuine happiness. It's infectious to be around and becomes a big part of why I love Bali and why a lot of other people love Bali. It's difficult not to be in a great mood when everyone around you is smiling, laughing, and just enjoying life. For me personally, this is one of the best things about living in Bali. I love the energy that I get from this. I love the happy vibes and I enjoy being around as many local people as possible. There's also an amazing expat scene here with some of the best expats I've ever met in all of the world. Really interesting people doing really interesting things. Many entrepreneurs and business people, people digitally remote working. Just really interesting people to hang around with and chat to. Super friendly and really easy to make good friends. Okay, I promised you a shock. So this is my one big shock that I had when I moved to Bali. Ready for it? It is the beaches. And this truly was a shock for me when I got here. If you think, like I thought, that Bali is a beach paradise, then you're going to be bitterly disappointed. Bali is absolutely not a beach lover's paradise. The majority of the beaches are black sand and not even that pretty. Definitely nothing like Thai beaches, for example. There are some beautiful beaches that can be found in the south of the island around Uluwatu, but the majority of the rest of the beaches are nothing to write home about. There are some really cool spots to hang out at. Obviously the surf is amazing here and that's what really draws in the tourists. But for those white sand lovers, be warned. Okay guys, there you go. There are my pros and cons of living in Bali. Let me know what you think. If you agree with some of them or disagree with them, give me a comment. I'm really keen to hear what everyone else thinks about Bali. It's an awesome place to be. I could have written loads more pros. I actually struggled to find the cons. But yeah, hope this has been good, guys. I hope it's been useful if you come into Bali. If you are coming to Bali and you want some help, send me a message and I'll try and help you out as well. Cool. Peace out.